Good afternoon to my contemporary math students. I'm going to go over a critical thinking exercise with you. One of the mandates that we have had from the Texas Higher Education Board in the state of Texas is that they want us to provide a critical thinking exercise in each of our courses. And they also would like for us to report the results of how our students do in these critical thinking exercises to the state. So I'm going to do this practice critical thinking problem because on your next test, which is next week, you will have a problem very similar to this on your test, and it will be part of your assessment. So I want you to really practice this problem, get familiar with it so that you can do better on it when you take your test next week. Okay, we're going to have the formula given right here. Now, the good news is when you go to take your test, all the problems that have formulas will be right there on the test, and the formulas will be right on the test. So you will not have to memorize any formulas. You just need to know how to accurately use them and how to accurately put the correct number in for the correct variable. So let's remember to give all answers in complete sentences, because that is one of the mandates for the state of Texas. It is also important to round all our answers to the nearest cent. So you have a happy occasion of your wedding. Friends and family have given you cash gifts which total $2,000. You're considering depositing this money and some of your own into an interest-bearing account so that you and your spouse can go on a fabulous trip for your 5th anniversary. So if you're investing for 5 years, T is going to be 5. After doing some research, you think you're going to need a total of about $5,000 for this trip. How much of your own money would you need to deposit in addition to depositing the $2,000 in order to have the $5,000 needed for this trip at the end of the 5 years? Now, you're going to be depositing your money into an account which yields 4% compounded quarterly. So when you have a 4%, that's going to be 0.04 is going to be the variable R. Because remember, you take your decimal and you move it 2 places to the left and fill in the blank with a 0 to go from a percent to a decimal. Also, when you're being compounded quarterly, that means N is going to be 4, because we're compounding our interest 4 times a year when it's compounded quarterly. Okay, so here's how I'm going to substitute into our formula. Our A, which is our future value, needs to be $5,000. So we want to earn $5,000 at the end, or have $5,000 in our account at the end of the 5 years. So that's our future value needs to be $5,000. Now, we're going to be investing some amount of money, and I'm going to call it a question mark. Some people call it X, in addition to the $2,000. So question mark plus $2,000. We don't know what that question mark is, and that's what we're going to be solving for in just a little while. Okay, now we're going to multiply that. By the way, this is the principal. This is P, the question mark plus 2,000. That's how much we're going to invest in this account. Is question mark plus 2,000 is the principal we're investing. Now, we're going to multiply that times 1 plus the rate, which is 0.04, over N, which is 4, raised to the NT power. So N is 4 and T is 5. So this is going to be an exponent of 20. Now, when you take your calculator, the first thing you need to do is divide 0.04 by 4. That's going to give you 0.01. So we know that this fraction is 0.01, and when you add 1 plus 0.01, you get 1.01. And we're going to raise that to the 20th power. So 5,000 is going to equal question mark plus 2,000 times 1.01 to the 20th power. Now I'm going to start using algebra to solve this formula for the question mark. I'm going to divide both sides by 1.01 to the 20th. So both sides get divided by 1.01 to the 20th. That's going to divide this out over here, leaving you just the question mark plus 2,000 equals this whole amount. Now, I'm going to go to my calculator and I'm going to show you how to put that into the calculator. It involves being very tricky. I'm going to put brackets around that just to show you how you want to do this. 5,000, oops, I have too many of those, so I'm going back, divided by, now I'm going to use a parenthesis, 1.01 raised to the 20th power. I can put all of that and hit my right arrow to get out of the exponent and hit my parentheses. What this is going to do is tell my calculator that 1.01 to the 20th is all in the denominator and needs to divide into 5,000. That's 4,097.722352. That is the number I need to put right over here. .722352. Okay, I like to use a lot of decimals. You don't have to, really. It's not that big of a deal because we're almost ready to get our answer. All we have to do now is subtract 2,000 from both sides. That's going to give us $2,097 and basically 72 cents is our question mark. Now, if it had said round up to the nearest penny, then you would always need to round up, but my direction said just to round to the nearest cent, so I'm going to round it to 0.72. On the test, if you get this close to the answer, I'm going to count it right. Rounding errors are just tiny bits off. I don't really count off too terribly much for rounding errors. So, to answer this in a complete sentence, I would say you need to invest $2,097.72 of your own money along with the $2,000 to meet your investment goal of $5,000 at the end of 5 years. So this would be enough of a complete sentence to answer the question. Now, let's answer the question, how much interest will be earned over the 5 years of the investment? Well, let's think about it. We're going to end up with $5,000 at the end of 5 years. We will have invested $2,097.72 of our own money, plus the $2,000 that we were given at our wedding, for a total of $4,097.72. So basically, to find out how much interest is going to be earned, we're going to take the $5,000 that we're going to have at the end, and we're going to subtract the $4,097.72 that we invested. That comes to $902.28. I did that on my calculator earlier. Actually, I did it by hand. So this is the amount. Okay, so if we're going to answer in a complete sentence, we would say $902.28 is the amount of interest earned over the 5 years. Of investment. And that would be a good enough complete sentence to answer the second question. I need a period at the end of that because it didn't show up. So put a period. Be sure you start with capital letters and periods at the beginning and ending of every complete sentence. Okay, last but not least, this is the critical thinking part. Will more or less of your money need to be deposited if the account has a 10% interest rate? Explain why. Well, if you think about it, since a 10% rate of interest is higher than the previous 4% interest rate, comma, your money is now going to earn more interest. Okay? Therefore, you will need to deposit less of your own money to meet your goal. Okay? So that's how I would say a complete sentence answer of explaining why you will need less of your own money deposited, because more money is going to be earned by the higher 10% interest rate to meet your financial goal. You don't actually have to work a problem down here to tell us how much. We just want to know if more or less of your own money is needed if the interest rate rises to 10%. I hope this helps you. I hope that you do really well on this test, and feel free to watch this video several times so that you get a real good feel for it.